Oh. Hi, good evening. My name is Norma Cavazos. I am the board president. Today is Monday, December 13th, 2021. We are at a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of Harlandale Independent School District. It is 6:15 and we will begin the meeting for this evening. I will do roll call of my colleagues who are present. Ms. Carrillo, present. Ms. Limon,
Here.
Mr. Luna,
Present.
Mr. Mancha,
Present.
Mr. Moreno,
Present, ma'am.
Ms. Ortiz,
Here.
and myself. I am here, so we do have a quorum. Mr. Soto, can you please let us know who's here from Cabinet and Administration, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, Board of Trustees, Harlandale ISD family. Tonight, we have our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Ms. Melissa Casey.
Here.
Our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance, Mr. Richard Hernandez.
Here.
Our Executive Director of Human Resources, Dr. Salinas.
Here.
Our Executive Director of Operations, Dr. Hinojosa.
Here.
And our Public Information Officer, Mariana Veraza.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. We also have with us tonight, Dr. Judy Castleberry. Dr. Castleberry, welcome this evening.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the rest of the meeting and the agenda, I would like for us to take a moment of silence. We lost a huge treasure to the Harlandale community. Ms. Diana Rangel has passed on and has left an enormous impact in this community. She was a great educator, a great friend. She was a great soul. And for those of you that are on Facebook, it was overwhelming to see the comments from her current and former students. They are just unbelievable words that these individuals, her students, are saying about Ms. Rangel. So would you please join me and bow our heads in a moment of silence? Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Agenda item 2 is public comment. We do have some community members that have signed up for public comment. Mr. Roy Bonilla. Hi, Mr. Bonilla. Thank you, sir. Before you begin to speak to the board, I do want to remind you that there is a 3-minute maximum per speaker. The topics addressed shall be limited to those specifically included on the board's agenda and or district related. And so you know where you are on the 3 minutes, we're going to put a clock up on the screen and that gives you an idea. Once the 3 minutes are up, it's going to do a little ping or a little ring, but give me 1 minute. Are we ready? Okay, Mr. Bonilla.
Thank you for having me here. And I'm here on behalf of the middle school softball program, baseball and softball. So, as we know, that we had 4 teams with over 30 girls, we've seen 120 girls this past season. Huge success. A lot of these girls had never played, right? So we had from the very first game to the very last game, a huge transformation. And these girls. Right, a lot of it has to do with hard work, dedication, a lot of work that we take for granted when it comes to team sports. Right, we don't always really think about it until we see it living and breathing the way we did, these past 8 weeks. Right, and it takes a lot for those girls to go out there, and stand there. The first game we saw a lot of errors. Girls just watching balls go right by them. And little by little, as the season progressed, we started seeing more plays on defense, more girls taking swings until the very last championship game. If you guys were out there, I mean, it was a nail biter. It went down to the wire. Girls were all over the field making their throws and everything, right? So through those values, right, hard work, dedication, and teamwork, these girls were able to, what I think, nothing short of a miracle, right? So I think now, as parents and leaders of this community, it's time for us to do our part which is giving these girls a better opportunity by upgrading their facilities and their amenities. It can be with lights on the field, something as little as lights at the fields that they're playing on. Yeah, a lot of the times during these games, we ran out of daylight, and it should, that shouldn't happen. We owe it to these girls, as their parents, as their, as a community, to help them out. And that's it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Bonilla. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
taking the time and addressing that. The next community member that we have for public comment is Miriam Valdez. Hi, Ms. Valdez. Again, there is a 3-minute maximum per speaker. The topics addressed shall be limited to those specifically included on the board's agenda and/or district related. And are we ready? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Marian Valdez. I am a chemistry teacher, the science department chair at McCollum High School, and a proud union member. I come before you to request higher pay for substitute teachers in our district, especially those that are degreed and/or certified. Currently, Harlandale ISD is on the low end of the pay scale for degreed or certified substitutes. Many other districts in the city voted last month to increase the pay of their substitute teachers in order to fill the gaps left by teacher vacancies. A certified teacher, a person degreed in a content area, can earn up to $200 a day at SAISD, a rate that will increase again with the new semester. Since October of 2020, the chemistry department at McCollum High School has been short one teacher. Administration has been unable to fill this position with a certified full-time teacher. Instead, we have employed long-term substitutes familiar with the content area in the hope that they will complete the requirements needed for certification. We have been unsuccessful in moving any of them into this role. Most recently, we were fortunate to hire a new long-term sub that was very capable and a certified teacher at the elementary level. The students responded well to having her in the classroom, and we even saw a jump in their most recent district benchmark. But she abruptly quit this past Monday, citing much higher pay and SAISD. She told me that she would be able to afford to take days off in order to study for the 7th through 12th composite exam. 117 students are once again without a teacher, and I once again find myself taking responsibility for their chemistry education. Chemistry is a mandated course required to earn a high school diploma, and these students have been without guidance for much of the school year. Despite my best efforts, the lesson that I post often go undone or are failed. If that wasn't reason enough to find them a teacher, 25 of the 117 are designated special education and require a second teacher in the classroom. Although many times they don't have this support. Due to a lack of available daily substitutes, IS teachers are often the first to be pulled to cover classes. For the past 2 years, I have been carrying the weight of a second roster of students. I have done the lessons and grading, not only for my students, but those of another teacher, without any compensation or regard for my time. I am exhausted, but more than that, I am concerned that we are not doing everything we can to provide a quality education for our students. I feel that if we are to remain competitive and attract qualified candidates to our vacancies, Harlandale ISD must raise the compensation, especially to those that are degreed and/or certified. If not, we can expect to see more substitutes leave our district for better opportunity, and the strain on these resources will further tax our educators. Our students must have the support they need to be successful and every opportunity to learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. Thank you very much. Our next community member that has signed up for public comment is Ms. Natalie Clifford. Hello, Ms. Clifford.
Hello.
As a friendly reminder, you have 3 minutes maximum to speak. The topics addressed shall be limited to those specifically included on the board's agenda and/or district related. And we are ready to go, Ms. Clifford.
Good evening, Superintendent Soto, Board President Ms. Cavazos, esteemed board members, and wonderful Harlandale ISD community, students and parents. My name is Natalie Clifford, and I am a union member and high school educator. We are all well aware of the many challenges within education right now as we approach nearly 2 years of the devastating COVID-19 pandemic. One of the major issues occurring nationally, which is also affecting our school district, is the issue of finding enough substitute teachers during a time when teachers are sadly leaving the profession at record numbers. Whenever we do not have enough substitute teachers, which occurs regularly, it means that some other teacher needs to cover the classes in question in order to ensure there is an adult with all students on campus. This was common pre-COVID-19, but it occurs on a daily basis now at multiple campuses. Teachers or staff who are pulled to cover classes missing a substitute teacher are those who are not the teacher of record, e.g. teachers providing support to the main classroom teacher. In other words, those who are special education co-teachers inevitably end up being most of those who serve as substitute teachers on a given day. I understand that this decision is not easy for the campus staff to make because it comes from a lack of substitute teachers available as we try to meet the needs of the campus. Nevertheless, cumulatively, the shortage of substitute teachers has a major impact on the content teachers of record who are supposed to meet the needs of a variety of students on their own without the support that is supposed to be provided from a special education co-teacher. The substitute shortage also therefore impacts our students who may already be struggling to understand the content. The substitute shortage has the effect of exhausting our special education staff who already have a high volume of paperwork and duties for which they're responsible, as well as our classified paraprofessional staff who are also used to cover classes on a daily basis. But there are solutions to this issue. For example, San Antonio ISD recently boosted their substitute pay in an attempt to attract and retain substitute teachers. They also focused on paying more for folks who specialize in high need content areas. Furthermore, we know that Mondays and Fridays are days when larger quantities of teachers are absent, so their pay is now extra on those days critical for substitute teachers. In order to support our staff in being able to use their hard-earned personal and sick days while also keeping high-quality substitute teachers and meeting the needs of all of our students, I urge the district to consider raising the pay rate for substitute teachers, perhaps, for example, with the federal ESSER funds allocated to our school district. Lastly, I wanted to acknowledge and honor the life of the wonderful Diana Rangel Duncan, retired counselor from McCollum High School, who recently passed away last Friday, December 10th. She impacted many generations of students and staff through decades of service with her one-of-a-kind heart and fierce commitment to lovingly meeting the needs of all students and families. We miss her dearly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Clifford. Ms. Angela Ramirez, did you sign up for public comment, Ms. Ramirez? Don't worry, no worry. Thank you for clarifying that. We are now moving on to agenda number 3, that's announcements. Ms. Veraza?
I'm sorry, yes, there is. Yeah, it's not going to Zoom. Yeah, but it's not going to Zoom. Yeah. Got Zoom right there, see? It goes to the second screen. What second screen? Oh,
Thank you.
you can use this too.
All right, good evening. This evening, for our Pledge of Allegiance, we have 4 students from STEM High School: Elias Sanchez, Carisma Abundis, Jacqueline Gloria, and Marlene Baez. They will be doing our Pledge of Allegiance, so we can all stand up, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prometo lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación ante Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Honra la bandera de Texas. Te juro lealtad a ti, Texas, un estado ante Dios, único e indivisible.
Thank you very much to our STEM students. This month, we had 1 retiree, Irene Ortiz Reyes from Child Nutrition at Schultz Elementary, and she has been with Harlandale ISD for 14 years. So we thank her for her 14 years of service. This past Saturday, we had the Earn a Bike event at Harlandale Middle School, and we had 142 students receive a bike, and this is through the extended day programs. That was more than in 2018, which was the last time we had this event. At that event, we had 100 students receive a bike. Parents also got to participate in parenting classes as our students were building their bikes, and we had over 100 volunteers from various organizations come out. So it was a great event. So this evening, we're going to be recognizing many of our students. As you can see, we have a full house. So just a reminder to students, board members, I'm going to ask you to stand up and stand right here in front in the white square. Students, you will be coming over here, walking in front of them, and then you're going to get together and take a picture with them. So as you're coming up, just wait for your team to be here, and then they'll take a picture with you. Okay, our first group this evening is our all-region mariachi from McCollum High School. And they are under the direction of Eduardo Cantu, Mr. Eduardo Cantu. So if we can have all of you come up, please. One, look at the camera. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you. Congratulations. Representing Harlandale Choir, we have Lauren Ortega present. The other students that are being recognized this evening is for making the region choir are Lauren Ortega, Cassidy Cabrera, and Lisbeth Rios. They also pre-qualified for area. Also Lauren Ortega, Emily Plodge, and Lisbeth Rios. And they also qualified for area as well. Lauren will now audition for a chair on the TMEA All-State Choir in January. So Lauren, if you can come up. and she is under the direction of Mr. Jacob Valadez. Now we have our Harlandale volleyball team. They are our by-district champions this season, and they are under the direction of Coach Ana Castro. So if you can come up. So maybe some of you can come to the front. It's good. Got it. Congratulations.
I'd like to make one announcement. I'm sorry, ladies. I would be remiss if I did not get an opportunity to say how wonderful it was to watch y'all play. Congratulations, not only on the district title, but also being district or by district champions. And don't we have the MVP of the district on this team? Do we not? Chanesty Villarreal. This girl has a 4-foot vertical jump. She jumps as tall as she is. And thank you. And thank you, Coach, for leading the girls. I got to tell you, it was wonderful. Wonderful watching y'all play. Thank you.
And now we have our McCollum volleyball team as well. They are also the by-district champions this season, and they are under the direction of Coach Valerie Vieira. Yeah, if you can come to some of you can come to the front. Perfect. Congratulations.
Sorry, it's me again. Ladies, McCollum High School, I know y'all saw me a lot at your games, but it was a joy watching y'all in by district. And if I'm not mistaken, don't we have the offensive player of the district here as well? Angeli Sanchez. Folks, give her a round of applause. She's wonderful, wonderful to watch. She is wonderful to watch. And I would be remiss if I did not recognize the coaches for the wonderful job, the supportive job that they do with these girls and making sure that the talent, it shines. Thank you so much, Coach.
We also have our McCollum tennis team, and they made it to the area playoffs, and they are under the direction of Coach Edmundo Conchas. Hey, congratulations. We also have our Harlem cross country team who also made it to area playoffs this year, and they are under the direction of Barbara Menchaca. And we have Sebastian Moreno, Marcus Riojas, and Alexandria Martinez. Congratulations.
Hey, Sebastian Moreno, are you the district MVP?
This evening, we're also recognizing our academic students, National Hispanic Scholars, Michelle Vogues and Luis Sáenz, as well as Gerardo Escobar. Both Gerardo and Michelle received the Valero Alamo Bowl Scholarship. So Michelle and Gerardo both received $7,500 in scholarship from the Valero Alamo Bowl. And if you haven't noticed this evening, we have artwork from Mr. Noe Garza's class at Columbia Heights. It's all over our board meeting today. And so we just wanted to make sure that you get a chance to see all the artwork before you leave tonight. They also have some ceramic pieces from the after school programs. This evening, we also want to recognize and thank Mr. Michael Weiss and Alejandro Calderon. They provided $1,000 worth of turkeys to our district families. So we are very, very thankful for them. has two certificates. Let me get that the other one from you. Thank you. We also have our VFW post 4815, Mr. Eric Rodriguez. They also provided meals for 50 district families during Thanksgiving, so they can please come up.
You got both? Yeah.
And last but not least, we would like to show you the Christmas message that we will be sending out to all the district this Friday. And it's kind of just a recap of our semester.
Hondo family, what a wonderful semester it has been. Can you believe it's already time for our winter break? We have accomplished so much over the past few months, and I'm incredibly proud of each and one of you. Let's do a little recap of some of the achievements from this semester. We were able to start with all our students in person this year, and thanks to our community partnerships, we were able to provide weekly COVID testing and vaccine clinics. In fact, we will continue to provide these services for the remainder of the year. We truly believe this has been a positive step in mitigating COVID-19 within our district. All of you proved yet again that we are a community of giving. During our United Way campaign, we were able to raise $67,825. That is a record-breaking amount in our district. We have also supported hundreds of families during our monthly mobile food pantries at the Sosa Family Engagement Center. For the first time ever, our middle school students have the opportunity to participate in baseball and softball. We are now the pioneers in the city of San Antonio, as we are the only district that offers this sport at the middle school level. The students did great during the first ever season, and we are excited to see all of the amazing athletes that will come out of these programs. It was amazing to be back on our turf for our Frontier Bowl this year. Thank you to everyone who participated and helped us have a successful event. Seeing all of the fans and all of you supporting each other out there was something worth boasting about. We truly are a family here at Huntingdale. I could go on and on about all of the awards and achievements our students received, like our volleyball teams being by-district champions, our McCollum tennis program making it to the area playoffs, our Huntingdale High School cross-country team for also making it to area playoffs, and our very own Leah Morales being recognized as one of the best ping pong players in the nation. In fine arts, our Harndale and McCollum marching bands both earned a rating of a 1 at the UIL Regional Marching Contest. 18 middle school choir students were selected to the All-Regional Middle School Choir, a record for Harndale ISD. And Collier Elementary music teacher Manuel Martinez was awarded a grant from the Texas Music Educators Association to provide additional resources to the school's music program. The list of accomplishments is never ending, and I want all of our students to know how extremely proud we are of each and every one of them. Your efforts and hard work do not go unnoticed. Now it is time to enjoy your loved ones during this very well-deserved break. Recharge and disconnect so that you may come back ready to keep making a difference in our community. On behalf of the Harndale Board of Trustees and the Harndale Isley family, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of the Harndale legacy. Happy holidays to you and your families.
Okay. That's it for announcements. We do have a request. Somebody wants to take a quick picture with you before they leave.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 4, information and reports. 4A, LSG reporting of minute meetings. Ms. Ortiz?
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to outline our Lone Star Governance Time Use Tracker for November 15th, 2021. The framework for vision and goals, the student outcome minutes were 61, minutes setting student outcome goals, minutes receiving, discussing, and voting on student outcome goals, monitoring reports according to the monitor calendar, and 3 minutes setting constraints or theories of action, minutes receiving, discussing, and voting on constraint monitoring reports according to the monitoring calendar. Under vision and goals, we had 0 minutes on other topic minutes. On progress and accountability, we have 18 minutes performing board evaluation using the LSG integrity instrument and evaluating the superintendent on student outcome goals, GPMs, constraints, and CPMs. We had 0 minutes on other topics. Systems and processes. We had 0 minutes spent on other topic minutes. Advocacy and engagement. We had 3 minutes of student outcome minutes, hosting 2-way communication meetings on student outcome goals, constraints, or theories of action, and recognizing the accomplishments of students and staff regarding progress on student outcome goals. We spent 10 minutes hosting all other board-led, co-led, or called community or committee meetings. On synergy and teamwork, there are no minutes to report, and other. Any time spent on an activity that does not meet the conditions listed above. We had 21 minutes. So for student outcome minutes, we had 85. And for other topic minutes, we had 31 for a total of 116, for an increase to 73% of our student outcome minutes. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. Moving on to agenda item 4B, Lone Star Governance Student Outcome Data Year-End Summary.
Yes, Madam Chair, at this time, Mr. Littlefield will start off and then we'll get support from Mr. Ronnie Cantu.
Thank you very much, members of the board, Mr. Soto, distinguished guests. Today, the topic at hand is really just sort of a summary of what 2021 has brought us in terms of the curriculum and instruction department. So the main thing that we want to look at, of course, is the district and statewide impacts of COVID-19 and interrupted schooling. In a recent report issued by TEA, they really took a deep dive look at sort of the impact of what COVID has done in terms of instruction. This particular graphic takes a look at the effect size, and roughly the effect size is how much of an impact a certain event has on other events. The more the effect size, the more impact that it had. In this case, we are looking at negative numbers. So instead of having positive impacts, it actually had negative impacts. COVID-19 had the biggest impact on mathematics instruction. It is approximately 3 times the amount of impact that took place on reading. We can approximate that reading about 3 months was lost. When I say that math is triple that, it's not actually 9 months because the scales are somewhat different. It's closer to a year. So basically our students fell behind in mathematics instruction approximately an entire year. It's hard to exactly quantify it, but that's kind of what we're looking at. This is statewide data that TEA released in terms of the impact of COVID. And you can see that on the reading side, you know, they got knocked back to 43% at the percentage of students who met grade level or above, which really kicked them back sort of to 2017, about 4 years. On the math side though, the drop was so dramatic that it actually kicked all the results back to pre-STAR days. We basically got reset to where we were about a decade ago. So of course the question is, well, what did it look like for Harlandale? So we went in and we took a look and we see pretty much the exact same thing. On the reading side, we actually got kicked back a little bit further. We got kicked back to sort of 2014. But on the math side, we got knocked back to levels that were so low that they don't even match anything that we had done before. When the results were coming in May, one of the great advantages of testing online is you get results back pretty quickly. We saw this was going to be apparent all the way throughout. On the reading side, English 1 and English 2 were not really all that impacted. What we saw was the impact on the lower grades. Whereas on the math side, what we saw was the greatest impact was in 8th grade math and in Algebra 1 math. There were some discrepancies back in 3rd grade, 4th grade, but not nearly as bad as they were in the upper levels. So our focus and our interests this year have been really, how do we even begin to address this? And in many ways, it really has taken us back to how do we go back and look at things the way that we did when we first got into this? When meeting with principals and meeting with coordinators, one of the messages is reading should be able to rebound fairly quickly. Math, it's going to take a couple of years. We have the skills, we have the tools, but there's a lot that has to be done. As we've seen statewide, and is also the case, the students who are economically disadvantaged were hit much harder than the students who were not economically disadvantaged. In fact, non-EcoDis actually saw growth in certain areas where the EcoDis students saw double-digit losses. So now I'd like to introduce Mr. Ronnie Cantu, who will talk to you all about the district response to this data.
Hi, good evening. So what I'm going to share is a narrative, and took a little bit of time to kind of wrap this in a shell to kind of so that it can be comprehensible, because our district is doing a whole lot of great stuff, and I want to make sure I get this right. The two systems that we have in place are the Resilient Schools Support Program, and that is district-wide, and we're partnered with Ed Direction. They're instructional strategists that work with school districts around the nation. And our supplemental support with working with Region 20 for the Texas Instructional Leadership, otherwise known as TIL. And we've selected Adams, Columbia Heights, Gilbert, and Stonewall, which will have a couple of those principals coming up to kind of talk about their journey through this program. So like I said, Mr. Littlefield went and showed you the data, right, where the teachers are currently at, and we kind of had a reset. And whenever you're in a state of chaos, you go back to fundamentals, right? Effective instruction, and what is the heart of effective instruction? So that has always been the lens with everything we're doing, not a program that's going to last a couple of years or something like that, nice and flashy, but to go back to core instruction, right? And so we're very careful whenever we were partnering up with anyone that they were aligned to our agenda and our goals. So we had TA's it's aligned to TA's Effective Schools Framework, which a lot of y'all are aware of, that governs the T-TEST, T-PEST. So it's common language. It's not something new, right? And then HISD district initiatives that we've had in the past 3 years was Understanding by Design, which is backward design planning, which I'll go into depth here in a bit, within professional learning communities. So hopefully I'm painting a picture here for you. It's like, these are our current structures, and I wanted to be very critical and careful as we're adopting new strategies that it fits within this common understanding and language. Effective Schools Framework levers, you have, and I highlighted them off to the left. Lever 1 is strong school leadership and planning. 2 is effective, well-supported teachers. 3, positive school culture. 4, high quality curriculum, and 5, effective instruction. So although we've hit all of those, the ones that really that it emphasizes is a strong school leadership and planning, high quality curriculum, and effective instruction, because you saw the data, right? We got to go back to basics. And at the heart of every effective school is effective instruction. So you see that high quality curriculum, the positive school culture, the effective, well-supported teachers all reinforce effective instruction. However, the strong school leadership, if it's not there, nothing's effectively implemented or progress monitored. So carefully, we wrap this in a gift, right? And to say that they're all valuable, and we're very critical on each of these levers. But I highlighted lever 1, 4, and 5, and you'll start to see that being highlighted as I go through the slides. Another district initiative that we've been doing for the past 3 years was, like I told you in the previous slide, was Understanding by Design. Very easy compartments there, as you can see. It's not even hard for a non-instructional person to kind of conceptualize. Stage 1, identify desired results. That's our curriculum. Those are our TEKs, right? Teachers, first and foremost, have to understand those grade level TEKs if we expect students to reach them. If that is missed, doesn't matter what the students are learning that day, it will never be met, right? So it's like, let's make sure we check off box number 1. 2, determine acceptable evidence. So if this is what I want to see, this is what kids should do and be skillful at, well then what am I gonna capture? Artifacts. So I can bring to professional learning communities, because we've established those. And then finally 3, which traditionally teachers like to start off at, which it's the activity. They spend a lot of time on that activity, but it may be missing everything that you need to capture. and or may be watered down. And right now it's very easy to go back to remedial practices because our students have gaps, right? But if we need to go on with the show, we need to make sure that we are strategically hitting those gaps. However, giving access to students to what they deserve so that we're not that outlier, or as you see, it impacts our population greatly. So through professional learning communities, and you see off to the right, the backwards design, each of the 4 questions that we ask in PLCs relatively resonate around these 4 questions. What do we want all students to know and be able to do? That's stage 1. Unpack the standards, right? Your curriculum. How will we know if they learned it? Evidence. How will we respond when some students don't learn it? Which is stage 3, learning plan. And how will we extend the learning for students who are already proficient? So these are questions that teachers are asking themselves within a professional learning community. So we've aligned that as well. And so back to our district response, we have RSSP, which are a partnership with Ed Direction. And we're very proud to say that we're going to be highlighted by TEA this Thursday because of the work that we're doing. So we'll be sharing this with districts around the state of Texas. Very proud of that. And Texas Instructional Leadership, I'll get into depth, but first I'm going to take a deep dive into RSSP. So if you can bookmark TIL for later in the presentation. So this has a lot of information, but I highlighted some information there so that you can see what's the most important with this. So when working with our strategists with Ed Direction, we went back to what are the current systems that you have in place. We looked at the backwards design process, and then we said, well, this is what we want to observe in classrooms, right? So we have to operationalize that. What does that look like, sound like in classrooms if we're going to able to transfer this onto campuses? And most importantly, our stakeholders, how can we monitor the progress of our efforts? So identify desired results is number 1. 2, determine acceptable evidence. 3, essential questions and understanding. 4, academic vocabulary awards, which is so important for our community. And 5, plan learning experiences and instruction. So this rollout has already begun this first semester. And I'll tell you the timeline here in a bit, but I wanted to paint a full picture of what our strategists, along with stakeholders from admin, MCLs, coordinators, directors, have come together to say, these are the critical components that we're going to adopt in Harlandale. We're going to define this, and we're going to go into the classrooms with our principals, observing each other's campuses. We're going to see it happen. So instructional leadership capacity building through the ongoing professional learning. So yes, it's nice to say that, oh, this is all that we expect. But if we have not built the capacity of our leaders within this context, we're missing the mark, right? So you have to pair it with PD. So we've, with Ed Direction, we looked at our instructional leadership series, which we gather our principals once a month. We skip a month or two where we come in and we have professional development for our principals separately. And then another one with our academic deans and MCLs, all on what I talked to you about, those 5 critical components so that we can learn what they are, what they sound like. Let's get our hands dirty and let's practice. And that's, I'll state it right there at the bottom. And during instructional leadership series, we set those objectives, right, in those high leverage areas that were defined. And the basis of, and you can see a picture of that, very interactive. We have the principals here to get to network. They don't get to do that a lot. And I've seen a lot of growth this year, just alone in changing the mindset of networking here in Harlandale, where you're starting to see principals call up one another. Have Ms. Garcia go over to Tara Wells, you know, to kind of see what's going on, what's working. So the excitement's rocking and rolling, and excited to see that. But first and foremost, it's the front loading. If we want to go and see this in the instructional rounds next month, we got to plan the instructional leadership series, that objective in building the leadership knowledge and skills in advance so that we can provide professional development, and then we can go and do instructional rounds. So very thoughtful process. Calibrations, networking, learning labs, and action planning is all the basis of instructional leadership series, all the things that they need to do that we don't necessarily have the time. So we've embedded that infrastructure here in Harlandale so that we can get our our principals networking with one another. And the topics include but not limited to all the RSSP focus areas. We've also invited the best in the nation with Tim Brown with Professional Learning Communities. We partnered up with Solution Tree, and we're going to have this up in February, Kim Bailey, which is the author of Common Formative Assessments. So I said, I want Harlandale to have the best. Let's seek out the author of this book that we're researching. So she's going to be coming in February to build that knowledge so that whenever we go into the classrooms at campuses, that is what we're looking and seeing and observing in those classroom observations. So putting theory into practice, right? So the RSSP instructional rounds, and this is how it works. Every instructional round has two components. It's the classroom observations, so actually seeing the execution, and seeing the backward design planning. So we look at lesson plans. So it's usually we go and set the objective, we go into instructional rounds, and then we come back and look at lesson plans to calibrate, to make sure that we're all on the same page on these critical components of effective instruction. And at the top right, it's the measurement, and we constantly adapt. We meet monthly, we meet biweekly, and so we come and we're looking at data, and if the data is not meeting our goals, we adapt immediately and get that out to the principals so that they can adjust accordingly. And the alignment to RSSP rounds, like I told you earlier, so far we've hit the 3 areas of identified desired results. So they're looking at the curriculum, especially the new ELAR standards. They're new to teachers and they interact with one another. So if they don't know how to manage that, they're missing the mark. So we're taking careful consideration in that. Essential questions and understanding is going to happen second semester, which comes from setting the objectives. And then determine acceptable evidence will then follow essential questions, which stems off of essential questions. As you see, this is a linear process of lesson design, but we're carefully taking our time. We're not rushing it because this is not something that we're going to do this year and it's over. It's very foundational. Like I said, it's aligned to the T-test, T-pass. It's what we expect teachers on effective campuses to do. So next year, we're going to continue this with academic vocabulary words, and then finally stage 3, plan learning experiences and instruction. And that leads us now to Texas instructional leadership with our four campuses. And if I could have Ms. Gimbel and Ms. Longoria to go and come on up here. So when adopting this program, like I said, we don't need another initiative. Right? Those don't last long and it stresses teachers out. It stresses us all out. It makes no sense. There's no relevance. So we were very strategic when we said, you know what, we need supplemental support for these 4 campuses. We specifically identified 2 areas, lesson alignment, which is stage 1, identify desired results. And for second semester, we're going to focus on formative assessment, which I told you the whole district will be working on it. So they're not doing an additional work. They're just getting the implementation support from CNI, from me personally, and on this coaching round. As you can see, what's so unique about this is you get the face-to-face professional development and they get to invite some teachers of their own, which they'll share their narrative. But then implementation support between me and the principals, and then I get coaching on my own from Region 20. So there's accountability, and I wanted that. And some people are crazy. I was like, no, sign me up. I need this. This is something I need. Hold me accountable for doing this work. So we have a couple of principals that I would love for them to share their experience, their narrative. They're much more exciting than my presentation. Ms. Longoria.
Put the bar pretty high up there, sir. Good evening, board, Mr. Soto and cabinet. So the impact of TIL in growing teachers and campus instructional practices in regards to student growth through lesson alignment, instructional practices, and overall assessment. So at the campus level, coaching and supporting our teachers has been a team effort. As a leadership team composed of administrators, grade level leaders, and our support teachers, not only have we been in training together, but we have all modeled and practiced the components to fully understand the impact of our practices and the expectations for our teachers and our students. TIL and RSSP practices are not academic components in isolation, but in tandem. giving teachers the opportunity to strengthen their skills with the backwards design of lesson alignment, planning, and assessment, truly putting themselves in the role of the students as they develop their instructional cycle in various content areas. As they plan, they're asked to take assessments themselves, putting themselves in the role of the students, discovering exactly what knowledge and skills they required to be successful on an assessment so that their instructional plans will include those knowledge and skills for students. By doing this, teachers have a view through a different lens as the learner, discovering the importance of vocabulary development and unfamiliar terms and concepts. This advantage is especially important in the area of math, where we all know interruption in the learning process due to COVID was most impacted. Math skills build and develop in progression. We can't assume that students remember from last year, because in some cases, developmentally, the students didn't have the opportunity to really experience mathematical thinking and concept development from the concrete to the abstract, with hands-on learning and connections to real-world problem solving. By using the processes of TIL and RSSP, our teachers are taking a deep dive into the TEKS and objectives to identify the high leverage knowledge and skills needed to develop an understanding and have a long time learning effect in all areas across the curriculum, while creating and developing learning intentions and success criteria that provide tangible evidence of learning and understanding, or the lack of. With the addition of aggressive monitoring, teachers are able to modify and adjust in real time for right now specific intervention and support. If teachers need to develop and plan for learning workstations or small groups, it occurs immediately as opposed to weeks or months later. On our campuses, collecting evidence of learning and checks for understanding has transformed through the use of TIL and RSSP practices by providing teachers with a manageable and measurable way to chunk and chew historically even the most difficult concepts and create meaningful learning and long-term experiences for our students while improving their planning and instructional practices. As we come to the close of our first semester, while acronyms and routines may have changed, teachers have discovered that TIL and RSSP components are not new, but by reinforcing the backwards design of instructional assessment and planning, those components are viewed through the specific lens of the student, thereby placing focus on what we truly want students to be able to do, to show, and to know. And as Mr. Cantu stated, going to the heart of our instruction to build the minds of our students.
We have Miss Julie Gimbel.
Good evening. Some of you had asked why Gillette was so successful. What were we doing there? The work that we did there, it was work, but now this is even more powerful of what we are doing now. When I came to this new school, it was difficult for our teachers to understand, how we were supposed to look at learning intentions. They couldn't understand that the backwards design. But being in TIL, it allowed us for me to take each of my grade level chairs during summer to a training where we were able to learn together and dissect what a curriculum should be looking in the classroom, and also doing the backwards design. As a team, we were able to do this and then turn around and rolled it out to our staff. So it has brought unity into our campus, and it's not easy because it's a mindset, and it's also learning to do things differently and doing the backwards design, and making sure that lessons, activities, and the assessment is all aligned together. One of the biggest benefit for us is also building that leadership capacity on campus. And also for my admin team, it has allowed us to be in the trenches together every Tuesday and Thursday, Monday through Thursday, and then on Fridays with our pre-K. Even our pre-K is doing this. So do we have a lot of work? Yes, we do. But this is a great start for us. And it's looking at those learning intentions and making sure that our teachers are able to understand and making sure that it rolls out into the classroom. Thank you.
So this next slide pretty much includes everything that they were talking about in regards to identifying highest leverage school practices, assess current state of school practice, prioritize gaps in practice to strengthen, and to connect effective and specialized support providers and to improve school practice at the essence of all this. What I really liked about the TEAL process, that allowed me to put in my calendar and prioritize my commitment, which can be flooded really easily, to prioritize campuses so that I can make sure that the implementation is being executed and they have additional eyes and support when we're walking rooms. And of course, it's always backed up by research and resources, Get Better Faster, Leverage Leadership, and 2.0, and the Principal Manager Guide to Leverage Leadership. Alrighty, and I'll hand off the mic to Littlefield.
I don't know why he brings me back for the data piece. So, it's really come back to intentionality. How intentional are we being when instruction's taking place? So we're really taking that same approach when it comes to assessment as well. So what we're looking at are common district assessments. They are written at the district level, and each campus will give the same spinal cord of questions so that we can compare and get a sense for how things are going. Well, what we've been doing with these is not only looking at performance, but making sure that we're looking at growth. Because if we only looked at performance, we already knew we were starting behind. So we already knew the numbers were going to be low. And if we only focused on that and not on the growth that these students are making, then things could get kind of sad real quick. One of the things that we've noticed is that even some of the students are noticing, hey, I'm failing higher. Good job. Because they are making progress towards an eventual goal. So looking at the mathematics side, grades 4 through 8, if it's in green, then that means that it is meeting the state standards in either performance or in growth based on the scales that were set a couple years ago. So you can see at 4th grade, on the very first assessment that was there, 31%. So they didn't perform well. But compared to how they performed in 3rd grade, they had a score of 74 points in growth. So we really focused in on that. Yeah, the results weren't fantastic, but they're so much better than where they were. So you're growing your students, keep up the good work. What we're looking for are the trends that we're seeing, in the other grade levels, where both sides of it are green, where we're meeting both on the performance side and we're meeting on the growth side. On the reading side, we haven't had quite as many assessments, especially in the secondary level. That has a lot to do with the fact that the writing test is gone. And we have already begun the process of integrating some of the writing pieces into the assessments. So that takes a little bit more time to prepare for and a little bit longer to actually get scoring. Secondary, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are currently taking their second benchmark. So we'll have those results. I can pass those along to you when we get those in. But you can see that in 4th grade, we still have some work to do. But in 5th grade, things are coming along much nicer. And then, of course, you all saw the beginning of this meeting. It was a full house. And, we want to celebrate everything. The performance is what shows up in the newspapers, and we understand all that. But what our students are accomplishing also needs to be recognized. So we thought we'd take this, last couple of minutes here to really highlight some of the greatness that we're seeing within. Author's purpose and craft. It's one of those things that's sort of the fundamentals of reading. And we're seeing that get stronger and stronger in each of the assessments as we go along. Renaissance reading, we're seeing growth from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. Secondary ELA campuses, they've really embraced the PLC. They've really embraced the MCLs that they have on campus. And they are growing in terms of understanding the entire process from beginning to end. And then, of course, we're seeing growth on the unit assessments on the math side. It was brought up in the, actually through the principals as well, with the learning intentions and success criteria. That has been a cross-curricular effort where the coordinators have really come together and are all speaking the exact same language about learning intentions and success criteria. What is it that you expect students to learn, and how will the students know if they've learned it? It's two very fundamental questions, and it has been a complete team effort to really push that message out and to clarify what needs to be done. You'll also see with our ELL population move towards dictado, where the students are engaging in transcripting even more so that they can work on, if they are Spanish speakers, working on their writing skills in English. Then, of course, we have all the students that we have recognized. We went ahead and listed them all. I'm not going to go through them all because you shook all their hands. Bless their little hearts, gotta love them. And so but these are some of the things that we really wanted to acknowledge in terms of the greatness that is taking place within the district. And then, of course, our student athletes cannot, there's such a connection between a student who is engaged in UIL activities and a student's performance within the classrooms. That is a component that the state is looking at in terms of making it part of the accountability model. So that's something that we're actually going to be tracking in the spring. We're going to be taking a look at the students and what they're participating in, and then looking at how their performances are both in the classroom and on the exams, so that we can get a better sense of, is there a relationship between those two? Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from my colleagues?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Ortiz.
It's not necessarily a question. It was a good presentation, and I'd like to read up a little bit more, but Mr. Soto and Ms. Casey, if there's anything that I know that we can do, we want to do it, and we want to offer our support in ensuring that our teachers have all the tools that they need to make our students successful. And I know that everyone on the board feels the same way. We want to support our teachers so that they have all the necessary tools in order to be successful. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
All right, I have a couple of questions, if I may. So whether it's Mr. Soto, Mr. Littlefield or Mr. Cantu, I know it's always tough. I know it's not really mentioned here, but I know you guys are doing it with Fidelity. But what does it look like in terms of the staff being off campus? Are we just doing remote, or are we doing it once a month? I know y'all weren't too clear on that, kind of like an overview, but could you give me kind of like a tentative idea of what y'all do? And are we having all admin team leave, or are we having, one person stay behind and someone kind of trickles out and gives the PD to everybody else?
Hello, test. All right. So we have 5 teams. There's 2 at the elementary, 1 at the middle school. Let me see, 2, 3, 4. That's 4. Am I missing? There's 2 at the middle school. Thank you. 2 at the middle school, 1 at the high school. And we split it up with principal group and then academic dean MCL group. So when we do split, and then of course, like if it's, we have 2 that they're the same objective, but the principal will be separate from academic dean MCL, so that doesn't cause an issue. And at this time, right now, we're building leadership capacity because we feel like I can have my best impact with one-on-one with academic support, leadership. So we're doing that in the rollout and the intention. That's why the instructional leadership series is there, so that we can then do trainer of trainers. And of course, we get our coordinators all lined up in regards to assisting with campus implementation as well, but it's building our campus leadership teams first and foremost this school year, so we could have that networking common language so that can spread. I mean, just have a chat with the principals. I mean, they're all sensing like, oh, wow, we're all moving together. And if we do so, we move more accelerated. at accelerated rate. So and plus the networking, because it's that way, and we have you on someone else's campus, they're building that relationship to network much more than they did in the past. So I'm very excited about it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, sir, for sharing that. In addition to that, I know with the data, I mean, obviously, to me, sometimes, like I tell people all the time, the data doesn't necessarily indicate what's going on in the classroom. There must be, in some cases, a lot of other variables as well in play, but it does give us kind of an indicator of where we're at. But I know you guys do a great job in putting that together for us and providing the specifics so we can kind of understand it and put it in context. I'm kind of just curious as we're going through the data and you guys are kind of desegregating it and things like that. Are we everything? Are we all testing online? Or are we still doing like paper test or?
Yeah, so in the spirit of the fact that the STAR test is online, we actually do all of our testing online. We are using the Eduphoria system to do that. There are still some limitations because, as you know, the test is changing in a way so that only 75% of the test will be pure multiple choice. The other 25% will be task-like things. So the programmers are working on that. We've begun some where a question will be asked and there'll be select the 2 correct answers. So we've started into that process, but it's something that the platform is working on.
Appreciate that, sir. I mean, definitely gives us an idea on where we're going.
Madam President,
Yes, yes.
I just have some fuzziness in my head about which campuses are participating. Is this a district-wide effort at this point?
Yes, RSSP is a district-wide effort. So we pair that with the ILS, like they all come. We had ILS before, but we're much more intentional about the scope and sequence, right? So, yeah. So, I mean, can you ask that question again? Because I want to make sure I understand too.
Well, I understood you to say at the beginning that there were targeted.
Yes,
elementary
okay.
schools.
So Texas Instructional Leadership is like our supplemental support. More intimate between me and the campuses, like I said, is like our campuses will get PD on common formative assessments in January, but our 4 campuses have been through a 3-day training already in November, where I attended, they went through the operational plans, they tried out what they expect teachers to try out. It's a little bit more intense, but you speak to those 4 campuses and they feel like they're ahead of the game because they have that head start and much more support at various levels.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Luna.
that was part of my question that Dr. Castleberry brought up, was how were these campuses selected for TIL, right? And
So in the past, we had our target improvement plan campus. However, this was not a program that was designed for campuses in need of assistance. I reached out, this was offered for all. Region 20 said, hey, I was at a meeting, they're like, hey, this is all different layers, levels of support. And they specifically said formative assessment and lesson alignment. I'm like, we're doing that. And this gives me accountability too, to work closely with those campuses. So it worked that way.
all right, thanks for taking that initiative. Another follow-up
Madam
question,
Chair.
Madam Chair, is, can I have a follow-up question? Another question. On this leadership circle you showed on a diagram, is that admin driven or is it more like a CPERC idea?
Which one are you referring to?
The diagram on the 5 components. I notice it's a circle, the leadership. Anybody know the frame number?
This one right here,
Yes,
the
yes.
effective schools framework.
Yes.
Okay, what's your question?
Is it admin driven or is it like a CPERC idea where?
This
they-
is from TEA. So
Okay.
how our teachers are evaluated. So that was another thing is I want to take in consideration. We already have something that's laid out by TEA that's driven by research. It's like, we're going to leverage this in common language and use this because it's a tool we're already using, but we're just going to be much more intentional about what that is. And yes, it says a rubric on teacher practices, but it never spells out what that looks like in the classroom, like the actual practice. So we specifically look at those levers and said, you know what, let's operationalize this so it can come to fruition in the classrooms. And we could all say, you know what, I know what this is because we define that characteristic. So that's the missing mark, because I mean, the whole state of Texas has this, But are they using it for compliant base or are they using it for district initiatives? Two different stories.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Mancha?
Yes, Madam Chair. My biggest concern, when you said it was a district-wide idea, I noticed that you only picked the Harlandale community area, and the schools that you chose were all in line in one area. So to say it's a district-wide assessment is really not. It's an area that has kind of been chosen, the way I see it. I might be wrong, but the way I see it, it's like a, the
Yes.
whole section. I mean, it's basically anything across this side of South Cross.
Correct.
Nothing
And-
on this side was touched by South, other than the southern side of
Right.
South Cross.
And so what we are seeing district-wide is that the northern part of the district is where we're having the most difficulty moving the campuses. So there was data that pointed to us that sort of indicated that these four were hanging around sort of the low C, high D range. And so, they are the ones that sort of became the center of conversation. If you think about the ones on the south side of the district, you've got your Schultz, you've got your Gillette, they're both usually competing for A's and B's, as are their middle schools. So with the RSSP process, we actually designated Leal Middle School as our hyper-focused campus, and they're the ones that work with RSSP directly. And, it was, you are right, it is somewhat it's very intentional in terms of, the campuses that we selected, for the most intense intervention. And then, sharing that with the rest of the district.
Yeah, so that's why when he said it was a district-wide assessment, it's not a district-wide assessment. It's kind of a chosen area where you felt it was the most need to
Where-
start with.
Yes,
And-
where the data was showing. it,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, we need to be cautious when we say it's a district-wide idea. It's going to become a district-wide idea, but right now it's not. It's based on the most need, is the way I'm taking it.
If you're referring to RSSB, like RSSB, the district initiative, it's a district-wide, like every component that we've identified, those 5 critical components of effective instruction, every single one of the campuses are receiving training on that, and they're implementing that, and we're doing instructional rounds on their campuses. Yeah, and I just want to make sure, I know for sure that, just wanted to make sure that was clear. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? I actually do. I don't have a question, but I have a few comments. I like the fact that we are finally not competing with each other, but we're hoping to succeed with each other. Okay?
I'm glad you said that. Because
Yes.
I think they need a round of
Yeah.
applause because they've changed that mindset.
Yes, I think that's extremely important.
Now, some may.
I have a thing of, if one of us succeeds, we all succeed. And it's about time that we all succeed, not just one of us. I also am very impressed with the fact that, as parents, we tell our kids, if you need help, let me know. Teachers tell students, if you need help, let me know. The fact that these principals are now encouraged to say, I need help, I'm letting you know, to me, that speaks volumes. Because we're not we think we know, but we're gonna say, but I don't wanna say, no, we need to educate ourselves so we can educate everybody else. So I applaud you for understanding that if you need help, please ask for it. That speaks volumes. What I don't want, and I may be wrong, is I know there's not a writing test anymore, but I don't want to lose focus on teaching our students how to write. Although they're not being tested on it, I still want to make sure that they are so well-rounded that they know how to put words into meanings. And so I just want to make sure that what you're doing also comes with that, please.
And, to speak to that, the writing component is gone as a separate test. It does get integrated in all of the ELA tests from 3rd up through 10th grade. So, in a lot of ways, it actually helps us because, it may be a tendency to sort of focus it on 4th and 7th because those were the tested, but now it's fair game all the way throughout.
Okay, well, that's good. Yes. Thank you so much. But I do appreciate that the mentality, the mindset, the goal is not to compete with each other, but it's to succeed along with each other. So thank you very much for that. Anybody else, any comments or questions? Yes, Mr.
The only additional comment I had is that I like the word you were using was networking, because that's in our mantra of just family working together back there. And so I've been in some of those schools and I taught in this district a long time. So it's good to see that they're working together because it's going to hopefully help our students in the big process. Like we said, we need to have this mentality. Even though I know they rank y'all, I know I've seen those rankings. And we're all one district. We represent all of Harlandale constituents. So we're all in the same boat, I'm trying to say. So I see y'all working together. It's good networking. I mean, what's good for one is good for all, right? Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. And thank you for inviting us to your events.
Anybody else? No? Okay, moving on to agenda item 4C.
Madam Chair, at this time, we're going to have Mr. Hernandez and Dr. Hinojosa come up.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry. We're going to provide some information really briefly on some bond election proposal information that we wanted to make sure that to get that out, to make sure that we had the information added and corrected from based on some of the discussions we had last week. So let me see. The RSSP used up all the batteries. So. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so as we discussed last week, part of the maintenance tax notes that were approved previously after the district did a facilities assessment back in January of 2000, the school board approved the issuance of the tax notes back in April. And these are just some of the items that have either been undertaken already as facility notes, either categorized as priority 1 or priority 2. And they're either have already been completed or are in the process of getting the paperwork to get RFQs and RFPs to be able to proceed with the process. So again, we have part of the maintenance tax notes work that's been done up to this point has been the current renovations of the auditoriums of both high schools, also working on the foundations at Gillette, roof repairs and HVAC work at various campuses. Part of the, we're going into the phase 2 now of the public safety radio program, as well as working with, or have already replaced a lot of the the canopies at various playgrounds. And then also looking at getting some parking lots redone or at the, or that should be, some of those should be beginning early next year. The marquees, again, we discussed that last week. Some are getting refurbished, some are getting replaced. And then we're also going to look at, when you see the other facilities needs, as was discussed last week, in terms of being able to see the costs that may be incurred by going digital for all of the marquees, even at the elementary level. That along with the renovations, some of the middle school locker rooms and some of the gymnasiums. So we have been able to look at some of those, some
Madam Chair.
items.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, Mr. Hinojosa, what about the Harlandale ROTC, I'm sorry, the McCollum High School ROTC? Do y'all have that included in the other needs?
Yes, we're gonna have that come up in in a couple of slides.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, no.
I just want to make sure y'all have it in
Right,
there,
yes, ma'am.
okay?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that in the next couple
Okay,
of
thank
slides.
you.
So again, part of the maintenance tax notes, as you know, and we'll get into more detail later in this presentation and then later in the board meeting. It's for renovations or as long as we're not going to change the footprint on any of the existing facilities. And so that's the work that's taking place with these expenditures for the maintenance tax notes. If we now look to items that we are looking at our local sources to fund, you see that we've got, again, when the needs assessment was made, it was put into two lists, priority 1 and priority 2. And so the first two, the relocation of the soccer field and the new parking lot on the visitor side, that's currently the work that's being done at Memorial Stadium. And then that'll move into resurfacing on the home side, work on the press box, the athletic offices, and also the visitors and the home side locker rooms. Again, that taking place at Memorial Stadium. So the total cost you see is 22,574, but with these out of the local sources, it's the local sources are providing 14,574,000 of the cost for these projects, which will have a remaining balance of 8 million. And when Mr. Hernandez comes to do the second part of the presentation, he will get into detail of the finances component. But these are the again, either priority 1 or priority 2 from the assessment that was done back in 2020. So even said with all that construction and some of those renovations, so now as we go into, these are still some ongoing, some of the needs that were discussed with the needs assessment, and then even from the discussions from last week. So again, looking at a career and technology building, student activity building, which is going to include the Performing Arts Center and a competition gym, and then competition tennis courts that would be centrally kind of located at Memorial Stadium to give us that number of tennis courts in addition to the ones that are already located at the campuses. And then the McCollum High School JROTC building, that would be a standalone building possibly at McCollum. So those are some needs that we still know those are capital project needs that we would like to entertain.
Can
Are
we
there
ask
any questions on that
Yes.
before?
Any questions? I just have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
There was a parent that came up to me and said, we were talking about what we want to do, and she said, competition, what does that mean? And so in my very limited information and of what we're doing here, I explained to her that like other campuses in the county and in the city, Harlandale District wants to be one of those districts that invites other schools to compete, not just with us, but with surrounding schools in our facilities.
Yes,
We always have to go somewhere else, somewhere else, somewhere else. And I said, it's about time that Harlandale hosts those UIL competitions, whether
Right.
it's in fine arts or it's in athletics, but we no longer want to go compete elsewhere. We want to invite other campuses to come and use our facilities for competition. Was I correct in explaining it in that manner?
Yes, ma'am, that's absolutely correct, because even though we do have tennis court facility specifically, like at each individual campus, in order to be able to host an event, not just to showcase our facilities, but also to the benefit of our students, not having to travel, but also having that pride to be able to defend their courts. We have to have an upgrade in the type of courts that we do have to make them competition. You have to have a certain amount of courts to be able to have a certain amount of teams come in order to be considered a UIL event. You can have dual competitions and non-sanctioned events at the campus level courts, but in order to have a UIL sanctioned competition, as Ms. Cavazos was stating, you have to have competition courts.
Thank you, Dr. Hinojosa.
Thank you.
Chair, I do have one more question. In regards to the McCollum High School JROTC program, is it going to be one building? Because, piggyback on Ms. Cavazos' comment, they too, the program, they always have to go elsewhere for training for, as you well know,
Yes.
sir. So how are you going to make a whole, is it going to be on its own? Or, because I agree, we should have them be able to, other schools invite them to come and see our facilities just as well. So I'm curious, where is the JROTC program going to be?
So currently, the discussions we've had with staff has been to have a standalone building that would be located in the area right now, more than likely behind the automotive between and that open area next to the field house, between the tennis courts and the automotive area possibly. But right now, the look for in terms of making sure we provide that for our students at McCollum would be a standalone building.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any comments or questions before Dr. Hinojosa moves on? Okay, Dr. Hinojosa.
All right, thank you. I'm definitely going to move on.
Good evening, Madam Chair, and members of the board. So in continuation to our Wednesday meeting, we received great discussion on what we're presenting this evening. As Dr. Hinojosa had mentioned, there are many projects that we're looking at and that have been laid out. So in doing that, as we said last Wednesday, it actually developed into a 10-year capital program that could benefit the district in the future. So in looking at the 10-year capital program, the issue is about funding. And so when we met with our financial advisor, Richard Acosta, with RBC Capital Markets, he's running late. He had a family emergency to attend to. But we also met with our bond counsel, Clay Benford, who is here this evening and was very helpful on last Wednesday's meeting and answering some technical questions that came about from the recent laws that were passed in 2019. But basically, in meeting with the two individuals and looking at the bond capacity of the school district, we're looking at doing a bond referendum for a 10-year capital program. Now, in doing that, there are certain phases, targeted parameters that need to be met. But again, a reminder to not only to the board, but our community is that, again, the district is still has an opportunity to share the cost with the state in regards to what we call the principal and interest cost, but basically the monies that are provided for us to do our capital program. And at this point, the share of that cost is 41% of the state and 59% of the for the district. So when we looked at our program, we were looking at doing bond issuance based on our bonding capacity at different points of the upcoming years to do a bond issue next year, should the bond election pass, of 50 million, and then another one in 2025, 26 year of 33 million, and then a bond issuance in 2030 for 42 million. So a total package of 125 million. Now, what would be covered under the first issuance of the projects that we have ongoing right now, which are priority 1 and priority 2. As was mentioned, we have maintenance tax notes that allowed us to pursue both priorities of 1 and 2, and but leaving a remaining balance for the stadium of 8 million. So as on a previous slide, as Dr. Hinojosa pointed out, we have enough local resources to continue with that project, but we will be short by 8 million. Again, the district is under a reimbursement resolution that it has the general fund monies to basically cover that cost. And should a bond issue be successful for the 50 million, then it would reimburse the district. Then with those two, that's 30 million, leaving a balance of about 20 million. And so what's being considered right now and discussed with superintendent and staff is to develop a current technology. And the reason for that is, as we know, that's an attraction to our school. It'll help hopefully increase our enrollment, our ADA, and some of the programs that would be conducted in the CT Career and Technology building is the medical assistance program, dental hygienist, certified nurse assistants, pharmacy technician, emergency technician, medical technician, and then our trades, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and welding. And so again, this would be covered with our bond issuance of 50 million for 2022. Then already there's been, as Dr. Hinojosa pointed out, one of the slides, some of the projects that as staff we looked at that would be a need in the district. But again, all of this is a development after getting community input and stakeholders input as well for a determination of what projects would be the final one. And again, as he said, the general ideas right now that are being looked at is a student activity building, which would house at least right now, as we're looking at performing arts center, competitive gyms, and then as we talked about, competition tennis courts and the McCollum JRTC program. Now, these types of projects are just the beginning of what would be developed by getting community input, and then would be able to be funded with the two upcoming bond issues should the full package pass of 33 million in 2025 and then 42 million in 2030. So in looking at these bond issues, there are targeted parameters. There are things that the district needs to achieve in order to provide this bonding capacity. And one of them is our average daily attendance. Not only does it drive the funding that we get for our general operations, but it also has an impact on our debt service amounts that we get from the state. So right now, our tax rate is at 0.4306. In order to generate the amount that we're looking at for 50 million for 2022, the tax rate would go up by basically 6.5 cents to 0.4968. Now, our average taxable value is for this year was 87,844. So basically, by the increase of the tax rate, it would be a $60 increase in the tax levy for the year. So basically $5 a month. Now, a reminder, those individuals that are 65 and older and are not filed, their levy is frozen at the time of their filing. So their taxes will not increase. The other thing, again, to always keep in mind is then we're sharing this cost with the state, which then provides that 41% contribution that they make into the principal and interest costs of the districts. And so these parameters, basically, as we looked at, what our ADA is, what our property values are, again, for the 2025 and the 2030 bond issue, we're looking at the average daily attendance for 2025 going down to 10,100. We have been seeing a decline in our ADA. And so again, these are conservative numbers that our financial advisor and our bond counsel looked at in order to structure what debt could be issued and at what time or period. So our average daily attendance for 2025 would be 10,100. We maintain our tax rate at 50 cents. And then in bond 2030, the ADA would go to 10,250, hopefully with the attraction of new development that's going up south of the district. We'll pick up our attendance and again, maintaining our 50-cent tax rate. Again, keep in mind that those individuals that are over 65, again, their levy is frozen. And again, we get the state share from the state at 41% and the district share at 59%. And one other thing to keep in mind that actually was generated from the discussion that we had last Wednesday was that Again, these are conservative figures. So depending on what our ADA is, what our property values are, what are the markets, the total amount would be 125. But if we can issue more, then we can. If we're limited to how much we can issue less within the hope of increasing our ADA or property values. Then again, and then if the market is more cooperative, then we could issue an additional amount than what we're planning in the years of 25 and 2030. One other thing that I think, again, was good discussion that we had from last Wednesday was the new laws that came out in 2019 on the way the referendums need to be structured. So again, by following the advice of our bond counsel, we can be very careful about how we structure our bond referendums to make sure that the district strategically puts up bond referendums that are to its benefit. So Madam Chair, the last slide is basically providing the information in detail. But again, it just shows you the amount of work that's gone into our planning and presenting what is available to the district as far as a bond proposal. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from my colleagues? I actually have a comment. So I'm going to wrap my head around all this because it is the first time that I'm on a board looking at this information. It's different when I was out there sitting down. What I want to be very clear, both as a trustee and as a resident of the community. $5 a month will bring massive growth to the district. We talk about having success for our children. We talk about leading in ways that this community and district has not had an opportunity to. If this bond passes, we need the help of the community to want our district to grow. We need the help of the community to want to bring more educational options for our students. Is that correct, Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, ma'am. By this program, it provides those opportunities for the district to grow because we will be providing facilities, not only to enhance new programs, but also to improve our facilities so that it's more attractive to our students and hopefully retain them.
So it's not just we're going to paint here, we're going to patch here. No, we're going to bring what Harlandale hasn't had ever, correct? As far as some of these courses, some of these new facilities that we want. It's not just improving them and making them look pretty. It's bringing what we haven't had here in a very long time, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I just want to make sure that that's what I'm understanding, that it's not just, I'm going to paint this wall, I'm going to, patch up that floor. No, I want to bring success to the district. And this would be a huge, huge way that we can provide that to our families and our students.
Yes, ma'am. And part of the process is getting their involvement in developing those ideas.
Wanting for them to want what we want.
Exactly.
Success for our children, to lead in ways that this district has not led in a while, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Thank you. Any comments or questions from my
Madam
colleagues?
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
Kind of just to segue off of that, Mr. Hernandez, I know last time when we had the board session, we're going to have to make the decision rather quickly. Could you remind us of the date that we have to make the decision by and what are the next parameters and what type of timeline do we have in order to get all the necessary information to go ahead and proceed to potentially put this on a ballot?
Yes, sir. And we have Clay Benford here this evening in case there's anything he would like to add. But my understanding is we would have to call the election in February. So in January, we need to begin making getting close to a decision of calling the election. And from that point, then gathering the community input and determining what projects we would be looking at. February 18th.
Is that enough time to provide, to get all the necessary input that we need, or is there any type of legalities that we would need to do prior? I know you mentioned we need to have obviously community input and things of that nature. Any specific type of meetings or town halls or introductions, just so we can, make sure we're, as was echoed by our board president, that we're as transparent as possible?
Clay Benford representing the district as bond counsel. Legally, no, there's not a requirement for that. So all you will need to do is have an election order prepared and presented with the minimal parameters that we talked about last week, which are the generalities of the projects and a maximum dollar amount. How you want to involve the community on a go-forward basis through not only the actual election date, but probably thereafter for implementation as well, is within the discretion of this board.
Thank you.
Sure. Hi, good evening. This is Richard Acosta with RBC Capital Markets. I'm your financial advisor. One of the things also to consider, though, is that also the deadline for EDA, which is the assistance that you would receive, is going to be the end of the next biennium, which is basically your fiscal year. It's going to start up again. And now is a time where that window is going to cut off at the end of that fiscal year in order to get those bonds on the books. So looking at it strategically, a May will get you before that cutoff date. So you could start to receive state assistance on that.
Yeah, so Mr. Costa just mentioned, just to clarify, that in order to get the most maximum benefit that's offered, we have to go this May rather than wait till November.
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
Any other questions or comments for any of the gentlemen? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next is agenda item 4D, enrollment status update. Ms. Veraza.
Mariana, we can move forward. They have it in their board book.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any questions I can answer?
It's at 12,070 as we see on
Mhm.
on page 54.
Correct.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Veraza about the enrollment status update? I guess none. Thank you so much. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5, consent items.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Soto.
on consent letter E, DFE local, termination of employees and resignation.
Uh-huh.
I'm requesting for that item to be pulled for next board meeting. We're trying to finalize a few things with legal on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. So we're gonna pull DFE local from agenda item 5E, correct?
That's my request.
All right, Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion. I move to approve items A through F for the exception of item E, DFE local.
Is there a second on Mr. Moreno's motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. I will take the vote. So yay or nay on consent items A through F except item E. Ms. Ortiz, yay or nay?
Just really quick, we're just pulling that one item off DFE local. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. I think they have not finished the resolution on that, and we will bring it up to the January agenda. Is that correct, Mr. Dos Santos?
That is correct. We're also adjusting some of the language in that local policy because we just want to make sure we're where we need to be.
We're
Yep.
clear and transparent?
Yep.
Okay, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. Mr. Mancha, yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you. Mr. Luna, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Carrillo, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Limon, yay or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Moreno, yay or nay?
Yay, ma'am.
Thank you. And myself, yay. So agenda item 5A through F, except E, passes.
Except DFE
Yes.
policy on
Yes,
E, but
except-
everything else in E passed.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So except DFE local, correct?
Correct.
Everything else passes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you. Agenda item 6, individual items. A, consider and approve revisiting the board operating procedures 2-minute time limit. I know we had gone back and forth discussing that. There were some board members that asked, is this time limit going to reflect when we have work sessions or budget sessions? So I want to have some clarity on that, please. Any input?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Carrillo.
I'd like to make the motion to consider and approve revisiting the board operating procedures 2-minute time limit.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let's have some discussion before we go on the vote, please. So my suggestion, I do want to keep it at 2 minutes. I know that sounds like I'm cutting people off. That is not my intention. What I would like to do is implement if and when one of us needs extra time, that we can request a 1 minute, an additional 1 minute. I know there's a lot of information going out to us when there's a budget session and a work session. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion alone, we get the board book and we get a draft of the agenda with enough time where we can kind of steady it. And then just be prepared with whatever information and questions we want to ask of administration. I don't want to keep anybody from speaking or asking questions. I don't want anybody to be restricted. But I do think for purposes of trying to get to where Lone Star Governance wants us to be, I would like thoughts on what I am suggesting.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
if I may, I got a couple of things. One is, I know we were supposed to get some sort of guidance. Were we not given that information? I know we had Ms. McNally on last Wednesday, but this wasn't on there. Second, I think we have an actual living proof record of what we've been able to do in those budget sessions. I think we've been pretty efficient in working through the time frame. Here, I'm kind of surprised we weren't using it for the board meeting because that's what I thought we were doing already. But I'm just curious, for one, what guidance was provided and what was the suggestions? Two, we have that ability of showing what we can do when we have the time. I think we're more cognizant of it with or without it. And whatever the board does and decides to do, I'll support it as well.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. And Ms. Patty said, are we going to do the 2 minute? And I said, I don't want to do the 2 minute at this meeting because we haven't had a chance to discuss it. And I wanted to discuss it and I wanted for us to agree on what we can do right now or what we think is best for us as far as purposes of keeping those meetings towards just student success. I didn't want to start until we all were on the same page. The guidance that Lone Star Governance gave me to provide to the board is we know where we need to be. We know how long it takes on some agenda items and how long it doesn't take on others. They know that we are, like you said, Mr. Moreno, conscious of what we are to do here for the district and for faculty and for our students, which is stay focused on success. They said they would leave it at our discretion because they trust that we will do what is best for us to do. I do know we can always revisit it at a later time if it doesn't seem to be working out for us. It's not set in stone, but I did want to, as of January, start with a time limit that is agreeable to all of us.
Sure. And then Madam Chair, one more thing, just, I mean, I'd
Yes,
like
Mr.
for
Moreno.
next time, that's be something that we can do it during our work session. I think that would have been a little bit more, I guess, effective in getting it. I mean, because my interpretation was that we were gonna be given some information and then from there, some dialogue. And whichever way we go, I mean, if they wanted to share it just directly with you and provide you that guidance, then so be it. But I thought it was a collective notion or idea, so I'm fine with that. Whichever way we go, it's okay.
Anybody else with thoughts or comments?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Limon.
Since we just started this work session and sometimes there's not a lot to go by and then sometimes there's a lot. I just don't want to limit ourselves when we're doing a work session and cutting us off or anything, but I understand that you would extend it, but I just feel that on a work session, I just feel that it's different than a regular board meeting. I just hope it doesn't go against us if we work a little bit, talk a little bit more, but I think the work sessions, we ask a lot of questions and we have to go back and ask again. So I just don't feel good about limiting our questioning on the work session. That's my opinion.
I have a question for you, Ms. Limon. Where would you be comfortable? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but that way we can open up the dialogue for it.
3 minutes would be great. I mean, 2 just goes by too quick.
Okay.
3 would be great. I don't want
Okay,
to
Ms.
give 5, no, just 3 is good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your
Madam
honesty.
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Mancha.
If I may.
Of course,
Uh,
sir.
I would like to make an amendment to the motion. I would consider to approve the visiting of the board operation procedure at 2 minutes time limit for regular and special call board meetings. Consider and approve revisiting the board operating procedures for work sessions at 3 minutes with a consideration of a 1-minute extension if needed.
I second. You're on board, Mr. Mancha. You're on board. Any further discussion before I go to the vote on Mr. Mancha's motion?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Luna.
Yes, I was gonna suggest maybe we could just try it for the regular scheduled board meeting and at first but if he wants to include the special call meeting, that's fine as well too. So I was gonna recommend that, just to try that as like a pilot program. So we can get used to it. That's my suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. Ms. Ortiz?
Yes, Madam Chair. I like that proposal, but I wanted to ask Mr. Resendez, in the event that, like for budget, if we could suspend the rules, can't we?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that we could suspend the rules and we don't have to keep revisiting this over and over and over again. Folks, I got to tell you, I like the idea of a time limit. I, for one, have a tendency to talk too much, and seeing that clock makes me go a little bit quicker. So I'm just saying that this is the first time that the Lone Star Governance Time Tracker, we've actually been over 50% on our student outcome goals. So I like the idea of having a timer. And then if we do need to suspend, then we can, like for budget. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Resendez.
Just want to clarify, Mr. Mancha, you're asking that we amend the board operating procedures to allow 2 minutes at regular meetings, 2 minutes at special meetings, and at all workshops, including budget workshops, that they get the additional minute when they need, if they need it. Okay. Oh, 3 minutes. So 3 minutes plus 1 more minute. Okay. Thank you.
Can I move forward with a vote on Mr. Mancha's subsequent motion? Okay. Mr. Moreno, yay or nay?
Yay, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mancha, yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ortiz, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Limon, yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you. Ms. Carrillo, yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Luna, yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you. And myself, yay. So we are now approving 2-minute limit on regular and special board board meetings. All work sessions and workshops, we're going to do a 3-minute max plus a 1-minute additional if and when necessary, correct?
Correct. And so that's for the budget workshops, the workshops we have in the meeting before this meeting, and any other kind of workshop.
Okay.
Is that correct? That's the intention. Okay, we got it. We'll revise the board operating procedures.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. We are now moving on to agenda item 6B. I know that I wanted for us to stay on top of being accountable to what our role as a board member is, to be clear and transparent with the community as to what we are doing, staying in that role. And we wanted to bring a board constraint every month. We do that. We didn't do it today, but we are doing at every regular board meeting, we put on our agenda a board constraint as a friendly reminder to us to let the community know that we understand and accept what our responsibility and our role is as trustees. So I wanted to add, if I may, at every regular board meeting, I would like for all of us, before we say the constraint, I'd like, for example, I'm going to say, as I reflect on my leadership as a board member and my Lone Star governance training, I, Norma Cavazos, board president, am going on the record as abiding by board constraint number, and it'll be whatever that number is on that meeting. And in my behavior and actions, I have not performed or appeared to perform the duties of the superintendent. I continue to focus on student outcomes and not on adult outcomes, so that is read into the record. I would like for myself to start, since I'm board president, Mr. Mancha, board vice president, Ms. Ortiz, board secretary, and then we go to everybody else that sits at this table. So that is what I would like for us to add to our board operating procedures, this language that we are going to say into the record at every regular board meeting that reflects what we have on that meetings as far as a board constraint. Any comments, questions, thoughts? Ms. Ortiz, did you?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
I think you've suggested this before, and I feel it's something that we can certainly utilize to keep that focus and mantra and collectively working together with the superintendent, and also give big kudos to Mr. Soto for providing that information for the last meeting, because I think that's what got us over the top. So thank you for finding ways to support us just as well, Mr. Soto.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Yes, thank you so much. Anybody else?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Ortiz.
I would like to move that we approve reading a board constraint during a board meeting each and every month.
I second.
Are you approving to recite the language that I have suggested, Ms. Ortiz?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carrillo, you seconding that as well? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Limon.
can we change the verbiage to put it as a regular board meeting? It just says during a board meeting.
Yes, we only put board constraints at regular board
Okay,
meeting
for regular,
agendas. Yes,
okay.
ma'am. There isn't one today, but there have been in the past, just on
Yes.
regular board meetings.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Luna.
I just need a clarification, just like, I'm trying to wonder, Is everybody gonna read one that day or just certain people?
No,
one
we will
day?
have one board constraint every month, and we are just going to recite this language to reflect that particular board restraint.
But individually or as a
Yes,
whole board?
individually, so that the record reflects that each of us are being accountable for staying in our role and understanding that we have not strayed from that board constraint as a board member. Mr. Resendez, you wanted to say something?
Individual, like one person, one board meeting, that's it. Not like individually, all 7 of you at one board.
That's what I'm
meeting.
asking, all of
Yeah,
us,
no.
or else it goes a long time.
You're right, yeah. She's just starting with, with the board president, and then she's recommending the vice president. So,
That way, each of us will be on the record acknowledging that and being accountable for that.
yeah. Yeah. No, good question.
We don't
Yeah.
have that many board constraints.
Yeah, no, good question, Michelle. Okay. All right,
Yeah, don't
thank
put
you.
the clock on that.
I put my hand up like,
Yes, Ms. Carrillo. Discussion, or can I move for the vote? Okay, I'm going to move for the vote. Ms. Ortiz, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Carrillo, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Limon, yay or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Luna, yay or nay?
yay.
Mr. Mancha, yay or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Moreno, yay or nay?
Yay, ma'am.
Thank you. And myself, yay. So agenda item 6B passes and will be adopted in our board operating procedures, correct, Mr. Resendez?
Yes, I'll add the language
language.
and bring it back for y'all to review, read, and then approve officially. Yeah,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so agenda item 6C.
That was in case there was anything else anyone wanted
Oh, okay,
to
okay.
discuss or add regarding the board operating procedure, since we're talking about them.
Okay, so there is nothing that we need to do on that.
Oh,
Oh,
go
Mr.
ahead,
Soto?
Mr. Soto.
Oh, yes.
Madam Chair, there is one item that Ms. Patty
Oh, that's
did
right.
see when Mariana was interpreting it to Spanish is even though our agenda states that citizens to be heard are to sign in here presently, on our BOP still had they would email the communications office, so that needs to be corrected. if
That's right,
the board
because
chooses.
we went from being
Virtual,
virtual and now
back
we're
to-
in person, so they're no longer signing up for public comment through email. They'll come in and sign. So we do have to change that, correct?
That's correct. In my understanding, the practice was they would have from 5 to 6 to sign up, and we want to continue with that practice. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So then
Is
we
that
would just
correct?
need a motion to amend the board operating procedures regarding virtual board meetings and, so they don't have to email.
Anyone want to do the motion for agenda item 6C? Ms. Ortiz?
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to move to revise the board operating procedures that we allow people to sign in to speak at a regular called board meeting. They must sign in person rather than sending an email.
Is there a second on Ms. Ortiz's motion?
A second. Ms. Ortiz?
Do we, give me 1 second. Do we have to put in the time that they have to sign in between 5 and 6?
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay.
Let's add that part, please.
Yes, so if you could add that they must sign in person from 5 to 6 PM
Thank you.
prior to the board meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Carrillo?
Was just gonna ask if we can add for citizens to be heard instead of just, anyone.
Yes, we can.
And Madam Chair, if I can ask one clarifying question,
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
and Mr. Resendez, I'm sure you can probably provide more insight. So we're already moving away from it, but I know we provide the live stream. If a person were, having an issue in terms of being in person, are we gonna afford them the opportunity to be virtual to actually sign up, or are we just going away from that completely?
That's up to you guys. If y'all want to consider looking into that, since we went back to in person, the practice has been, they have to be here in person to sign up. So that's why we were thinking, let's just go back to how it was. So, having them do it virtually could be something we could look into if y'all want to, and, but I think the practice has been they come in person. That's what we've been doing since we've been back.
Yeah, but I mean, I know people, I mean, we're still in the midst of something, so, I mean, I guess it's something to consider if we're not gonna go the route now. But I mean, not too many people take advantage of it either way, so it's just something that we could have it there. If we're asking the community like, hey, look, watch us online, but don't try to, citizens to be heard online. You have to be in person. I mean, some people are still somewhat hesitant. So, I mean, it's just another avenue to consider.
Well, I
Madam Chair.
think, give me 1 second, Mr. Soto, and because I'm trying to understand, I think there's a difference between we are live, there's a live feed of the meeting, and there's a Zoom feed of the meeting. Because in Zoom, then you do have that two-way communication, but if it's a live feed, which is what we're doing, it's just they're listening to what's happening in the meeting, but we cannot communicate through a live feed. Am I completely wrong?
No, you're right. It's a
Okay.
live stream, but
Okay.
at the same time, we can offer that if we wanted to. We can do where we still block the people that are not needing to be on the meeting. That's still available. You can still do both simultaneously. I mean, that's technology, so, but it's up to us to decide what we want to do.
Is it safe for us to move forward with how it will used to be in place in the past, and then we can revisit it?
Mr.
Mr.
Soto, I
Moore?
think wanted to mention
Oh,
something.
Mr. Soto, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Mr. Mota alluded to that is if we would like a Zoom, Chris, we'd have to set it up to provide a Zoom and a YouTube. Right now it's just YouTubed.
Because it could always just be contingent if somebody actually signs up. If they don't sign up, it doesn't take hard to create the meeting. So we can populate it rather quickly, but I mean, it's just an opportunity if we really want to do that, but we can revisit it. If we have maybe a growing number of people saying, hey, why don't you offer this? Then perhaps we'll come back to it.
Good idea, Mr. Moreno. Good idea. Yes. Any questions, Ms. Simon? No? Okay, so
You have a motion and a second.
we have a motion and a second?
I believe, just the
don't-
motion, Okay.
Yes. Yes, she seconded.
Okay.
Yes, Okay, so let me go forward with a vote. This is on agenda item 6C. Mr. Moreno, yay or nay?
Yay, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Ortiz, yay or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Luna, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Limon, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Carrillo, yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you. Mr. Mancha, yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you. And myself, yay. So agenda item 6C passes. Agenda item 6D. Is that Dr. Hinojosa?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair and members of the board, on page 113 in your board book, you'll see just, we're going to revisit a little bit of the information that we provided in the bond presentation earlier. But what we're asking for, and this is just regard some updates to the district's facility and equipment needs assessment as related to the funding that was approved back in January 21st of 2020. So as we discussed earlier, so with the approval on the January 21st board meeting of the district's facility needs assessment, there was the list was divided into two priorities, priority 1 and priority 2 for major facility capital repair and replacements. And then within the priority 1 and priority 2 list, the renovations and improvements to Memorial Stadium were broken up into phases 1 and phase 2. And you can see those will also be printed. If you could, as the next section, Mr. Hernandez will touch base with here in just a second, but if you turn over to page 114, it's another way, just another showing of the same information of that we just covered. So if you were to look at the funding from the renovation of the improvements with the tax notes of 22 million, if you were to look at from the auditoriums to canopies, that would be considered priority 1 items, and then from the public safety radio system down to the LED lights, that would be under the priority 2 category. So those are still items that would get covered under the maintenance tax notes. Now, what we're bringing forward to you, and you see new underneath that, proposed new items after discussion with district staff and stakeholders. Those are some other areas that we would look at possibly funding out of our maintenance tax notes, but that's the possibility. If you could look up to HVAC and under priority 1 and the LED light replacement under priority 2. Those were actually items that we're able to take care of with our current budget resources. So we would not necessarily have to apply all those funds that were allocated initially to that. So that gives us the opportunity after meeting with staff to address some of the other proposed items, the new items. Again, that's the resurfacing of both high school tracks. Again, giving our athletes an opportunity to compete at a different level. The resurfacing of the the Memorial Stadium track, because that's already starting to degrade to a certain extent. Again, putting our athletes at a disadvantage. And then the replacement of the high school bleachers, which is kind of a yearly thing as need, but being able to just replace them as a whole. So again, those are new proposed items that will be able to come about because of the reduction of the 2 other items that initially talked about. So those are items that would come out of the maintenance tax notes. And if you look at the next section underneath that for some funding for the local resources of $14,574. That's the breakdown of phase 1 and phase 2 for Memorial Stadium. So phase 1, which is currently taking place, is estimated at 6.7 million. And then phase 2 improvements would be estimated at 15.7 for $743,500.
Thank you, Dr. Hinojosa. Any questions, comments for Dr. Hinojosa?
Fair.
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
Just one thing, I know we kind of referenced the marquees and then just listed as marquees. I think that's kind of a blanket statement, right? So
Yes.
we don't have to be specific or anything like that.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay,
so
so if
we're-
we
we're-
wanted to do more like we had the ability for a digital or.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And those are things that we're going to entertain. Because right now, as the way it's listed, some have gotten redone. But after the discussion from last week, that's what we're going to request that information. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Dr. Izanos.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Luna.
Yeah, one idea came up when I was thinking about this was maybe we should somehow, since we're gonna get the bond money or just remodeling, that we should unify all the signs to look the same, sort of same design. Because then they know that's a Harndale school. That's a Harndale school. That's because I know here in the south side, military, they don't know whose school belongs in what district unless you live in the district. And that sometimes people don't know. So if we modernize that, this is a Harndale, put that H somewhere on that bulletin board, on that board, and oh, that's a Harndale school. So they'll look at us, brand recognition, as Mariana's always working on. So I think it's one suggestion. Thank you.
Great suggestion if this bond passes. So great suggestion if this.
Once
falls.
again, one family working together.
Yes, yes, yes. Unity, unity. Yes, Mr. Soto.
Dr. Hinojosa, if you could elaborate a
Yes.
little bit on that.
Yes, sir. So one of the things that we did is we physically drove around to the to each of the marquees to see what kind of situation, what state they were in. One of the things that we did come to consensus that because of that, to make our brand known is to either apply it onto the sign itself or attach a placard to the base, depending on the model of marquee that it is. But the school district logo is to have that on and placed onto each of our marquees for exactly for the reason you said. We should be proud of what we're offering to our students and to our community, and we just want to make sure that we showcase that. So that is something that we've already taken into account, sir.
Yes, they're on top of it. They're on top of it.
Amen, amen. Go ahead.
Anyone else? Any comments or questions? No?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Ortiz.
I would like to move that we take appropriate action regarding the update of the district's facility and equipment needs assessment and related funding approved on January 21st, 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. Is there a second on Ms. Ortiz's motion?
Oh, second.
Thank you, Ms. Limon. I will take the vote. Mr. Luna, yay or nay on agenda item 6D?
Yay.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moreno, yay or nay?
Yay, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Mancha, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Carrillo, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Limon, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Ortiz, yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you, ma'am. And myself, yay. Agenda item 6D is approved.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
I'd like to make a motion for item 6E to approve the contract with RVK Architects with compensation for basic services at 6% of the costs of the work, plus the costs for additional services for the Harlandale Memorial Stadium renovation Phase 2, and funding to be from the local resources.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. I will second your motion. Do we need any discussion or can I move forward with the vote? I can move forward with the vote. Okay. Ms. Carrillo, yay or nay on agenda item
Yay.
6E? Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. Ms. Limon?
Yay.
Thank you. Ms. Ortiz?
Yay.
Mr. Moreno?
Yay, ma'am.
Mr. Mancha?
Yay.
Mr. Luna?
Yay.
Myself, yay. Agenda item 6E passes. Agenda item 7, moving into closed session. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes.
I just want to clarify for item 7E, we're also going under Texas Government Code 551.071, which is attorney consultation.
Oh, yes, okay, on 7E.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah, we
okay.
need- yeah.
So it's the same.
Yeah, I just saw
TGC
that.
55.071, right?
correct.
Okay, let me
Attorney
write it
consultation.
down, just so that we know it's going to be included on there. Thank you, Mr. Rosales. Is there a motion to move into closed session?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
I'll go ahead and move to convene in closed session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Sections 551.071 through 551.084.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Is there a second on Mr. Moreno's motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. May I take the vote? Ms. Limon, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Carrillo, yay or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Mancha, yay or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Luna, yay or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Moreno, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Ortiz, yay or nay?
Yay.
Myself, yay. We are moving into closed session. It is 8:42. Man, that's going really well.
They did. Well, how so? What do you mean?
Yes, it is. Yes.
We can go back if it's on here.
Hold on.
Yeah. It's regarding the Lone Star governance reporting.
Yes, it's consent item C, adjusted to the November 15th board progress tracker.
Well, she's referring
Consent, it's in
consent 5.
No problem. No. So we are back in open session. It is 10:06. Do I have a motion for agenda item 7A? I'm sorry, agenda item 7A, no action taken by the board. Agenda item 7B, no action taken by the board. Agenda item 7C, no action taken by the board. Agenda item 7D, no action taken by the board. Agenda item 7E, no action taken by the board. Before we adjourn, I would like to wish everybody a happy holiday coming up. I hope you all stay safe. I hope you have a lot of peace in your homes, tranquility in your heart, and many abundance of blessings to come this new year. I am grateful for another year of all of us moving forward with success of this district and our students. And I just want to say happy holidays to everybody. Does anybody want to?
Madam
Oh,
Chair.
yes, can I? I didn't know if I was. Okay,
Oh.
I'll do it. Yes, Ms. Carrillo, go ahead. Yes. Oh, well, before we adjourn, I would like to welcome Dr. Felicia Joyner as the new principal of Bel Air Elementary. So welcome to the Harlandale family, Dr. Joyner. Looking forward to meeting you. Does anybody have any a message they want to say to the community or our staff? Enjoy your
Madam-
vacation, staff.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Ortiz.
I would just like to echo the sentiments that you just expressed to our community. They are who we are. Our kids make the difference. And happy holidays to all of you here at the table and everybody out there.
Ms. Carrillo, you ready?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second on Ms. Carrillo's motion?
Second, Luna, second.
I will take the vote. Mr. Moreno, yay or nay to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Yay.
Thank you. Ms. Limon, yay or nay?
Merry Christmas and yay.
Thank you, Ms. Limon. Mr. Luna, yay or nay?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Ms. Carrillo, yay or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Mancha, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Ortiz, yay or nay?
Yay.
Myself, yay. It is 10:09, and I guess we'll see you at the new year. That'll be our next meeting.